Okay, well, this is our second Sunday of the month. We typically go through, and we've done this for quite some time now. I remember I was the first one. It seems like it was Valentine's Day, I think, of last year. So we've been doing this for over a year. And I find it really, really interesting. We are a small church, but to connect with people at a deeper level is I always learn quite so much. When I was asked to do this because of Jeff's illness, I just looked quickly at your bio. We had known each other through ICE 911 and some activities there through the church. But when I saw the similarities, it was like, okay, we both had sizable careers at Hewlett Packard. We both have done not one but multiple startups as founders. We both are faculty at a university, you at Stanford, myself at Santa Clara. And then the one I thought that was most fun, and I'm excited to get to that conversation, is we're both embarking on something we've said we've always wanted to do, and now we're doing it. Myself with art on Friday afternoons with Stelly and crew, and you with your work with Medium. So I'm excited to talk through that. So Leslie Field, you've seen her. You can see by her garb as a stellar member of the choir. Also, your son years ago did the Eagle Scout program for the play yard, as I recall.
That's right. The steps you have out there were built by our youngest son.
Were built by, and with all the activities that you have, and we'll go through those and all the passions. One thing that I'll always remember about you is, as we're going through and doing the Maple Street lunches, and we're making them, here's Leslie flirting around. Here, Mike, take money. She was just putting money in my pocket. Like I can't participate in this week, but I want to give something. I think that just to me demonstrates just a generous spirit of you're there to contribute in various ways. I thought, well, that was just very, very, very heartwarming to know that you care and you want to do what you can, given your busy schedule.
Well, thank you.
Back on script. The way we typically start these out is to kind of find a little bit about your journey from your family and just what was your spiritual life like, structured, unstructured, just a little bit about your background and how that connects into your spiritual journey.
Okay. Most of my childhood was spent in Massachusetts, and my mom's from Maine and is an artist, and oh golly, so art, yes. And she convinced me, despite bad feedback I'd gotten in junior high school, that I could do art. She tricked me into doing this by saying yes to my best friend in high school sure, I'll teach you how to paint. And I said, yeah, well, I've been told I'm lousy. I can't do this. Maybe I'll write poems instead. And there she was with my best friend yucking it up. And it was like, Mom, is it too late to join in? And I found out I love that too. So yeah, one of my favorite paintings that I've done, and it was years ago, I don't have much time, was a watercolor in Yosemite when my best friend out here in California convinced me we should go do that artists, take those classes. Yeah, which is fun, right? Yeah, thank you. So yes, I love the arts side of things. Where am I in the journey? As you say, I've just started writing on, it's childhood. We want to get to childhood. I realized pretty early on, I've said this before to folks, but it remains true, around 10, 11 years old, that I really wanted two things when I grew up. I wanted to be an inventor, and I wanted to be a mom. And an inventor was because it was just so much fun. I loved science fiction, not remotely cool for a kid of my generation at that point, for a girl, but my ABCs were Asimov, Bradbury, Clark, and we had the good library within easy walking distance. And I just loved thinking things through. I kept myself awake in second grade at night sometimes, various reasons, difficult to sleep anyway, but so this moon thing, would you build a dome? How would you make that? How would you get from one to, just that was just fascinating to me. It doesn't take much provocation to have me burst into the Star Trek theme song, for instance. It's just like, yes, grew up on this stuff. So there you have that. My dad is a chemical engineer, and he was an MIT grad. He'd gone through a master's program there. And what I found as I was finishing high school was that I really wanted to, I was putting together a portfolio for art school. It really called to me. And my dad had the talk with me. In our family, the talk was, you know, you could be an engineer with art as a hobby much easier than the other way.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And I selected MIT. I worked very hard all the time, so I got into the schools I'd applied to, including Stanford. But I was like, yeah, let's take it a little easier on my dad's pocketbook. He's already paying for tuition, and I, you know, let's go close to home. So I went to MIT.
And did you have a religious tradition at home? Were you churchgoers? Were you?
I see, yes. My mom was raised a Unitarian, or I guess in those days it was called a Universalist. My dad, I told his rabbi where he could go when he was trying to prepare him for his bar mitzvah. So not on the same page. And I found the kids in the particular church we went to weren't so nice. And so I decided Sunday mornings were for going out into the, you know, the trees and the rocks around and just being there. That's where I found God. I was thinking maybe I should call myself a druid or something, but you know, it was just that nature is still the thing that calls to me. And for me, Yosemite, that's where God is.
Yeah. Well, that's a good lead into the next question, which is around what brought you to Portola Valley, to this area, right? And part of it could have been the nature, I would say.
Very much. And the environmental vibe in this town, I mean, we get along with that. My husband and I found this house. I found it in a realtor's window and then decided that we should ride our bikes up to it. We live way the heck up Wayside Road. And riding our bikes to it, and my not quite remembering what number it was. Well, maybe it was 311. Maybe, you know, just had us, you know, it was a long journey, mostly walking our bikes up there. But when we got up to the top, it's like, wow, must be nice. And then the price dropped and we decided, okay, it's going to be a struggle, but let's do it. And we've been there 30 years now.
And bringing you out to the West Coast was it Stanford? Was it what brought you to the West Coast from?
I was totally burned out. I ended up getting a bachelor's degree with an optional bachelor's thesis, a master's degree through its practice. You know, you're doing some actually in industry work. All of that in 4 years combined. And so it was pretty intense. And I was applying for a PhD because I'm an inventor. I knew I wanted to do research. And it was like, oh God, several more years of this. No, I need a break. I've proven I can get through MIT, great, you know, and it wasn't such an easy time for women doing that at that point. And I'm going to go across the country. We saw San Francisco once on a family trip. I loved it. Why don't I just go? I'll be there for 6 months and then come back and do the rest. And I'm still here.
The rest is history, yes.
Yeah, I'm still here.
And how did you find Ladera Church? What was kind of the serendipity with that?
Well, we have common friends. And so my husband knew someone who's my board member actually right now, and her husband before I had met Phil, and her husband is somebody I went to high school with. So it was just like this small world thing. So when I met Phil and we found out, oh, they're doing Stanford Savoy Arts and all. Anyway, at one point, Anne said, gee, Eric really could use some people to sing in the Easter, and it's going to be Messiah. Do you want to do it? And I came here, and it was like, oh, good. And the kids had gone to preschool here, so we knew of the place. But it was just these people. This is a good community for me, right? It's just, you know, as far as I assess you, you're just a group of really passionate, sincere people who are caring about the right things, and a wonderful choir, very friendly, very sweet, and Eric, oh my goodness, humor with our rehearsals, right? It's and then the occasional, you know, wow, a cello player, wow, you know, it's just it just keeps giving. So it's wonderful, and
Nice. So this is the part that I think you're excited to get to because it's you can tell she's not very passionate about anything, right? She's not full of energy.
Blasé.
But where are you finding your inspiration, your motivation these days? What kind of paths, besides singing in the choir with all the wonderful people, what else is really kind of
Yeah,
present to you?
so there are two main things I'm involved in right now. One is my latest nonprofit, working on glacial ice, and good Lord, the planet needs something. And you know, doing my darndest there, and that is certainly hard work and hard work.
Yeah.
Who knew saving the planet would be so hard, is what I whine to myself sometimes. And I know it's not the whole planet I'm working on, but it's the feeling you get. And the other one, as you mentioned, is trying to shift the conversation a bit. I am so sick of the headlines I read, you know, of just all the lies, all the hatred that's growing out there. And I have for probably about a year with one of my best friends who we call weekly, you know, talking about, couldn't we have a circle of sanity or something where we're reinforcing the positive things? I like the chuckle. And I've decided that doing, you know, writing is a good way to do that. And so I've just dipped my toe in. I knew Amy Payne, who I adore, had started doing things on Medium, and I thought, let's try that. And what I'm finding I'm writing about really is, excuse me, it's all about love. I mean, especially I started just before Valentine's Day, and I am finding the wildlife around our place. I will say this, I pulled this off Medium because with the work I do, it's hard enough to get it accepted, but we don't need a reputation as a flake out there. But for you, my friends, it's, you know, I looked into the eyes of a moth one day that I had rescued from a puddle of water. And he, you know, he then crawled up my leg, and I, you know, up my hiking boot, I guess I was higher, drier ground, and I just looked at him as I was trying to get him to something he could eat or recover from this trauma he'd been through. And the blast of love I got from that moth, from eye to eye, it was like, what? I'm an engineer. I look at facts, and it's like, what on earth? But that's what I got. And, you know, there are tales in the Medium things about, again, this is the other one I pulled, but I think I'll put it back there. The community of quail, when a baby quail went down a storm grate in our backyard, was just, they were so alarmed. They were so there while we were attempting to rescue it. And we did rescue it. And it was just, wow. You know, I mean, there's 100 quail or so on our, you know, that wander through our yard. And so they kept track, you know. So that was amazing. And the more I think about it, the more it is just, that is the glue. That is the glue.
Yeah.
It's the love here.
And just being aware of that, right? I mean, so given that your engineer mind, right? A lot of us have engineer minds, process, so on. I'm curious about when you're getting into writing now. What I found in getting into painting is to let that experience come through, but then all of a sudden my discipline is, what's my process? And so you go down a rabbit hole of all the different techniques and so on. Do you have a process for writing, for putting those thoughts in? Or are you trying to divorce yourself from maybe some of that rigidity and just be present?
It's that, actually. It's the clear out some time, and I've so far only done, you know, two big postings there, and pulled 2/3 of one of them, right? The other, along those lines, was looking deeply into my mom's eyes, who, our son, our older son, taught me that cats communicate by blinking. The long, slow blink of love is how a cat tells you they love you. And wow. And then I look at the cat, and it's true. That's what happens. And when I went and saw my mom a few months ago with her Alzheimer's, she could barely speak when I got there. I brought my violin. I know I can reach her through music and art, but I sat next to her to start with and said, you know, this is what Quentin taught me, that cats will tell you they love you this way. And I blinked at her, and she started blinking back. And it was like, okay, you can still reach with or without words. And that one is out there on Medium because, you know, people understand that. But it's, yeah, the process is just sitting there, and it's like, what I've got many things teeming around in here all the time, right? Which one wants to come out? And you just start writing. And then you say, wow, that was cool. I got it out on paper. And then you reread it and go, oh, brother.
The inner critic, yes.
Yeah, and then you tighten it, and it seems to take, I try to stop myself after 3 or 4 edits, because otherwise you are just down a rabbit hole.
When are you done? Yes. I think
Yeah.
that's the hardest. I heard someone say, the hardest thing about art is just knowing when you're done. I think, yeah, it's true. I think that's right. You want to tinker with it. It's like, it's good.
My mom had an art teacher who told her that. He said, the greatest favor you could do, many of you painters, is to have somebody with a hammer just come behind you when you're done and say, stop.
Exactly. So you also are a teacher. Tell me more about what you get from that experience and why you continue to do that. It's a lot of work, and you've been doing it for what, 10, 12 years now or so? Or
just finishing my 13th year,
Your 13th
class of this.
Yeah.
It's just one quarter class once a year. But yeah, and I'm back in person because it clearly, when all the other classes are in person, you can't be doing Zoom. Your students will not be paying much attention to that. And so I've got wonderful students. And when you think about, at my age, hair showing its solidarity with the Arctic, you realize there's only so much I'm still going to be able to do, right? I'm obviously having a great deal of fun and still filled with energy, but a time will come. But to give my kids, which is the whole motivation to trying to make things better here, really, I mean, that's where the heart motivation comes from. To give them a better chance, we need people who know how to solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
And we need people who understand what the situation really is and have the courage to look it in the eye. And so in the class, I have them building community with each other. It's like, for heaven's sake, don't do this alone. It's too hard. You'll just get fried. You are in some sense staring into the fiery pits of hell here. And in fact, I shared with you on an email something. I'm wondering if the Garden of Eden story is actually perhaps a prediction, if we don't do the right things, that we're going to kick ourselves out of the Garden of Eden. Not a past sin thing, but what's coming if we don't actually take some appropriate action. So I'm trying to help everybody in that age group and beyond of, let's figure out how we can solve things. I'm being really gratified this year because it's the first time being back in person after a few years. We've got a couple of very vulnerable family members at home, so I've been ultra careful. But these guys, they really want to hear from me. I've usually structured it around guest lectures. I get inspired by people who are doing climate interventional solutions, and I like, having these examples out there. And they've been saying, tell us about you. How do you do your inventing and things like that? And what I found myself realizing to teach them is it's a beginner's mind thing. Some of the things that made biggest impacts for past employers were things that my boss, he was the best boss I ever had actually, but he was sure honest. He said, that's preposterous. And he had everybody in the group checking my thermodynamics on this thing, and it was actually true. It actually worked. It made a big impact for them. And it's like, you don't have to be like everybody else. I was the first woman in many, ways of things I've done. And in fact, I found this on my students' lecture summaries, some of them saying, and then Dr. Field said, this is the thing that hit home for me the most. You don't have to be like everyone else. And in fact, maybe it's really essential that you're not. And they're just finding, when I had them all introduce themselves the first week, they were like, I wasn't sure I belonged here because I haven't solved anything in climate, but look, so it's nice to watch them getting that confidence. Right.
What I find with some of my students is they are so pre-programmed to thinking a certain way and gaining this, it's your time to explore, it's your time to open things up and to really think about possibilities and express yourself. And I think giving them a permission to do that is a wonderful thing. And then just hitting them, it's like social media, there's so many ways we communicate now. It's nice to hear things again and again. And you may not say, well, what can they get from this? Well, it'll stick because it'll build on something else and something else. And, in the grand scheme of things, it's rewarding. So what else is going on in your life that you'd like people to know about or to share? We're kind of getting at the end part, but what else would you
I
want?
see. That is the countdown.
Grover keeps us honest. What else is going on that you'd like people to know about, Leslie?
I am thrilled with what's happening with so this could be a prayer of thanksgiving, what's happening with our oldest kid, Quentin. And that is, he went through and he did a physics degree at Harvey Mudd, really difficult school, and he did a thesis who his thesis advisor was just thrilled with. He's a really smart guy. Pandemic has had him a bit stuck, and he just enrolled in community college. So the whole San Mateo County Community College District, 3 excellent colleges. And he's doing the most enviable stuff. And I can see the straight line from my mom to him of the art. And so he's doing graphic art and he's doing, all this design stuff, and he's doing literature. He's always read or watched movies like a literature professor anyway. I mean, and music. He convinced me to take a guitar class with him, which I'm probably going to flunk the midterm because I haven't put in the time. But but it's just glorious to just watch this renaissance. What he's aiming for is to get a certificate in game design, video game design.
Yeah.
And if you do that with ethical story, and he's a very ethical guy, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's a great integration of creativity with really fun and excitement and really important right now today. A lot of people spend a lot of time gaming, so it's a good area. Well, thank you so much. We're I don't know whether the new time is like overtime. It's like we get to go as a tie score, so we get to go to sudden death. I really want to thank you for the conversation. It's been delightful. As we said in our email exchanges, I'll look forward to having a deeper conversation coffee with you. This was coffee part 1. And you all got to contribute to that as well, at least listen to it. So thank you so much for sharing. And I think after this, we're going to a hymn, and we're going to the appropriate hymn name, Wade in the Water. Which I think about 15, 20 minutes ago, I thought we were going to be wading in water, but I think it's slowed down again. But
thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Leslie.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
And choir, I'm so sorry my back was to you the whole time.
And we are only going to sing through the chorus once and then go into the verses.